Hurry, define this place or we'll be late.
Make a left on Astrology Avenue. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant right. It should be right here at 444 Spirit Way. Oh, turn!
It looks like Renee. Yay, we're on time. The James and Kellee Show.
Great, let's start the show.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Kellee. How you doing?
Hi, honey. Oh, my God.
Oh, they're already on.
It has already been a crazy time.
No, you guys would not believe what we've been through.
No,
It's
seriously. You
crazy.
actually wouldn't believe it.
It's
But we made it.
We made it.
We made it.
Everything is loopy.
It was a loopy beginning, but we got here. We did it.
Wait, on a I don't know. I had a tank of like a little less than a mile of gas to get home in time, and I did it.
Oh my God! And you had such, Mercury retrograde situations.
It's hitting me left and right. Have you had a lot? I've had tons.
Not as much as you, but I've had my share. Yeah, I've had my
It doesn't
share.
stop in my house. I'm even having a glass of wine, which I hate, and I'm drinking that, and I hate it, and I'm having it.
It was something, but you were able to get on today, so that's a good thing.
By hook or by crook, I was able to go on today, and the camera's working, and it works here. But I'm so not technical, and people that I know are technical even having trouble.
I know, it's so true. Yeah,
Affecting everyone, really.
Well, this Mercury retrograde is a doozy. It's going to hit a lot of things.
I have a lot of friends, people I haven't heard from in so long, and they've written me, text message me, emailing, is there something going on? And some of this Mercury retrograde is intense. I mean, I've had so many of those. Yeah. And I don't know what to say. I said, yeah, welcome to the club. Or send back a blowing up picture or something.
Oh, as I said, this Mercury retrograde really packs its punch on everything. And don't forget, James, we had the eclipse, a few days ago, and we have the other major, a big conjunction coming up. So all of this energy, you can feel it. The next big one, I'll tell you, the next big one is April 20th. And
well, let me ask you, Kellee, from the eclipse we just had, is there some remnants of energy left from that as well?
Let me explain that, James. I'm glad that you asked that question, and thank you, because it has a lot to do with the fact that Mercury retrograde right now is actually transiting over the degree of the solar eclipse. So the one we had a week ago, it's actually transiting over that degree. And what happens at that period, and also I should say this, that Mercury retrograde is also connected to the last solar eclipse that was in October. And if you think about the October 6th attack in Israel, Mercury was the ruler of that last solar eclipse, and now it's retrograde. So yes, that's why it's making everything much more intense.
Israel from Iran.
Yes, exactly, and that's why it's so intense right now.
It's intense. Is everybody out there on the comment page having intense times?
Yeah, Carol Huss says we'll be so glad when April 25th arrives. And by the way, that's I should talk about that. April 25th, Mercury goes direct. And so, yes, the energy will be a lot better. And people are saying, no wonder it was so crazy today. And Trey says it's causing him to feel blah. But yeah,
I think it's got like what I do and Kellee does, but we go after each other. We share with each other because it's just too much. I think you have to laugh. I think you got to find the ridiculousness in it sometime.
Oh, yeah.
And the bizarreness, because it is so bizarre. And people driving a bizarre, and people, it's just bizarre. So you really can't get into it. Just step back and kind of laugh or have a glass of wine.
We had to laugh, James, today because I had a lot of little things that I had to film. And every time we would go to film them, I had to film some things.
Are you kidding?
Well, but here's something I bet you in San Diego would not have figured. All of a sudden, the farmers are out. And the farmers and their equipment and the noise from the farmers and the equipment, it was pretty hilarious. And we're like, what's that noise stuff? It was pretty funny. Yeah. Some things that I wouldn't necessarily have known to think about, actually. There you go. Are you frozen? Did we lose you, honey? Come back, Sheba. Are you going to come back? Karen says, some days I have a lot of energy and some days I can't keep my eyes open. I'm so drained. I know, Karen, it's really kind of one of those intense kind of up and roller coaster energy kind of. Lisa says, I'm super dipper sick. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you've had to stay in bed because you're sick. Wow. Hi, honey.
Did you just get a blackout, Kelly? Were you just
no, but
blacked out?
you did.
Oh, you also blacked out on my thing, so.
Oh, then we both blacked out together.
I just started laughing because it's just too funny.
Oh my gosh, this is so
Jamie
funny.
wants to sleep until 4:25. I remember I said like 2 weeks ago, go under the covers. Never get out from under the covers.
Yes, that is so. And then Chris Hart says there sometimes she's awake all night long, which is interesting.
It's hard to sleep at night too. It really, I have as well.
It has been. Oh my gosh.
What tired, but yes, a lot of people have been tired from that eclipse, Kelly. A lot of people have been tired.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of people have been tired. And then the opposite. A lot of people all of a sudden had a lot of energy after that. So when will this be over? About April 25th. So, and a lot of anxiety. Yeah, this has caused a lot of anxiety.
A lot of anxiety. But just step back and laugh at this because it's so crazy.
Yeah. And things should start feeling better. Well, after about the 20th. But let me just talk about the 20th, and then we've got a great guest to bring on. But let me just mention about this April 20th, because it's a really big, powerful conjunction that day. And it's between Jupiter and Uranus. And we've been talking about this powerful conjunction for years. Yep. And in Vedic astrology, it's in Aries at 28 degrees, and it's ruled by Mars. And the last time, James, we had an eclipse, we had a conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus in Aries at the late degrees was during the Viking era. So this is a huge deal, and it's about the Great Awakening. Now, it won't be on that day, but what happens is it's going to lead us into the future, and it's going to be this will begin this year.
Let me tell you 1 second, because I have to have my head on straight. Okay. You once said that the Mercury retrograde, and then it transits. And didn't you say once it goes back into Mercury retrograde, or was I wrong?
No. At that time, during the eclipse, it actually went Gandanta. It went backwards even in retrograde. It already happened. But and that also made things pretty wonky.
Plus, a lot of the past stuff is coming up. I mean, I can't tell you. The past 2 days, people are talking about their past of 30 years ago, and
not only that, James, but have you noticed a lot of people are passing away?
A lot of people passing away, or a lot of diseases, a lot of cancer.
Yes. Yeah,
my gardener guy just had a mass in his head, and it's cancer. It's
oh my gosh!
And it's like wow.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that come up
out of the clear blue. It's just
amazing. And this time does bring people back into your lives too. Whether you're there or not. Time to set boundaries. But and I will talk later on Thursday on my show about this really powerful conjunction, because it really changes life going forward. So it's a very big
I'd also just like to tell people that Soul Care is no longer. Last week was our last broadcast, but I will be doing Facebook Lives quite often. I might be doing something called Soul Speak. It might be just a web, Facebook Live. I'll just go on, and so to make sure everybody connect me on Facebook, because that's when you'll know it's going to be. I don't have a set time for it, but as soon as I can figure out the camera and Facebook, I'm on. So
right. Well, and don't forget too, next week we have a big
announcement.
Big announcement for next week too. So we have a lot going on.
What's happening?
A lot happening.
Our guest on.
Oh my God, we should bring our guests on. Let's definitely bring our guests on. And I'm going to introduce our special guest here, because I have known Risa Sheppard for many, many years, and she's the co-founder of BAM Therapy. She's been a leading mind, body, and spirit fitness expert for over 45 years. Risa trained and instructed with legendary Pilates teacher Ron Fletcher. In 1980, that's huge. In 1980, Risa created the Shephard method, an innovative Pilates program that is the basis for BAM therapy exercise. And she lives and works in LA with her beautiful dog. So welcome, Risa Sheppard.
Hi, Risa.
Welcome. Risa. Hi.
Thank you.
Why did I think you were from New York? I don't know why I thought that.
Everybody thinks I'm from New York.
Because you have a New York thing, yeah.
It's really weird. I was born and raised in Los Angeles.
Yes, wow. She's like me, a native. Yeah.
And, I said, I don't know. But I have some sort of a New York
vibe. I ran into another lady this week, same thing. I said, "You must be from New York." She said, "No, I was born and raised in Los Angeles." I said, "Wow."
I know. I mean, literally. I mean, it gets under 65 and I'm ready for, the fireplace and hot chocolate. So, it's like recently it's been crazy with this weather. Yeah. So
So tell us how you got involved in the whole field, the whole Pilates, and at that time,
You were at one of the first,
one
weren't
of the
you?
pioneers, really.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it
Tell us
was
about that.
I had just graduated. I was one of those would-be little actresses here in LA too, that were every like
Weren't we all? Yes.
who is who is it? But I studied acting. I was at UCLA but I always loved movement, and I was always, for some reason, cast in plays and stuff where I was like the witch. And I'm not a dancer. I wasn't, a professional dancer, but I just always loved movement. And even in those days, the aerobic hard kind of that wasn't my thing. I
Right.
liked more of a inner work. And I was home one day reading about this new place that opened in Beverly Hills by a man named Ron Fletcher, who brought over this thing called, actually, they didn't call it Pilates in those days. It was body contrology.
Really?
Really
You know
more
that?
because control of the body. That's what Pilates called.
Wow. Wow.
I don't know when or why all of a sudden it turned to Pilates. Well, there's a lot of stories. I mean, I could,
Right.
but
Right.
anyway, so I said, well, this sounds kind of interesting. This sounds like something I'd like to try. I mean, I went and I fell in love with the work. I mean, I got to it like a duck to water. I fell in love with the work. And of course, in those days, they didn't have certifications or anything like that. I just loved the work. And Ron said, well, actually, I was doing a soap opera a little bit. And then I had to quit because they fired me. And, and I said, I'm not doing the soap opera anymore. And they said, well, why don't you, work here, teach here? And I was like, really? Yeah. So I just started working there. And
Beverly Boulevard? Was it Beverly Boulevard?
no, it was Beverly Drive.
Beverly Drive. I remember.
No, I'm sorry. It was Rodeo.
No, I don't remember that. But that was a place in Beverly. Okay.
Do you remember Aida Gray at all?
I do very much.
Yeah, Aida Gray. She was a big cosmetic.
Yeah, huge.
And she had a big office right on the corner of Rodeo and Wilshire.
Yeah.
And then he had, I guess, it was sort of the attic right there that they opened up, and they just made it a Pilates studio. So we were above Aida Gray for a long time. And like I said, in fact, I just fell in love with it because like I still say to this day, I felt like a dancer without being a dancer.
Did you have a transformer machine?
Pardon me?
Did you have the machine, the transformer? Is it called the transformer?
It's the reformer.
I'm sorry, the reformer. For me, it was a transformer. For the
reformer. It could be a transformer as well.
It transformed me, I'll tell you, since I've done Pilates. Was there a reformer then? You had that? Was that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I walked in this.
I don't know if it was just bands then. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I walked in this room and there were reformers and there was a Cadillac. There was a thing called Cadillac, which was the creme de la creme of Pilates, day. So he called it the Cadillac because it was the best in the world. And we had reformers and we did mat classes, without reformers. We did it all. And then it was funny. I mean, here I'm just this kid. I'm 22 years old, right? And all of a sudden, Ron turns to me and he goes, go work this guy out. And it was Ben Vereen.
Oh my gosh. Remember Ben Vereen, the dancer?
He was a huge star.
Wow, he was huge, Ben Vereen. Huge.
So I was like, moi, you want moi to work out this famous dancer?
Wow.
And he said, yeah. So I guess that was my certification. I don't know. But I loved working there. And then Ron sort of semi-retired about 1980. And there was no Pilates. Aerobics was the big deal, and nobody heard what Pilates was. And it wasn't really going places, but somebody wanted me to come to their home. And I said, there was a lady who could never get it. Oh, if only somebody would come to my home. Remember, she was British. And I said, well, I will. And so I got to, go from being paid $5 an hour to I charged like $20 an hour to go to her house. Of course, this was, in the Middle Ages. Anyway, and I did that for quite a long time, and nobody still ever really heard of Pilates. There was just maybe one or two places in LA. And then it just started getting a name for itself. And I said, the main reason why I called it the Shepherd method is because it was including, well, it was body contrology to me. And also, but I did a lot of hands-on and stretching, and I started studying a lot. Again, nobody ever heard until I guess in the 90s, it started to kind of bloom. And a client of mine was getting some physical therapy, and she said, well, my trainer knows Pilates. And he was like, really? Somebody knows Pilates? So I was hired by him to train their physical therapist in this weird new thing called Pilates. And that was it. And then it was always a dream to have my own studio. But so I saved money, and it finally came to pass that I opened up the studio. Although I loved going, I didn't mind as long as I was teaching. I loved teaching people. I loved helping people. I just loved all of it. And then within a short time, I decided, first of all, I started getting more TV work as a fitness expert than as a Pilates. So I thought, well, this is better, this is kind of cool. And I just dropped the acting and stuck with Pilates because it was giving me so much satisfaction. And it's something you can do, you don't get too old at 35 for it. In fact, if anything, it's something you can do until your last days in your 90s or 100s. And that's it.
Wow. Well, tell us, how did you get involved with, because Risa wrote an incredible book along with, we should say, your partner, Dr. David Tannenbaum, who's not with us today. He had a situation. He couldn't attend tonight.
Yes.
His mother
he had a death in the family.
Yeah,
so
there you go. But they wrote a fabulous book, Mindful Movement. And so can you tell us all of what BAM therapy is? Heal your back pain with BAM therapy. Tell us about BAM therapy and how did you guys come up with this?
Well, I've been involved with science of mind.
Explain what science of mind is.
A new thought it's basically a new thought movement, as they call it, where really your thought creates a lot of your reality, and not really your, but yeah, your reality and how you feel and how you move in the world. And it was like Pilates. My first science of mind, not Scientology. I would always, no, it's not Scientology. But I went, I fell for that. Like I fell for Pilates, In fact, if anything, I grew my whole business on the principles of science of mind. And it's just creating the God, not creating the God. It's not, it's being in touch with that inner knowing and that God, if you want, within you that knows everything. It's all within you and all without us too, but it's really within you. And I liked it because I was, not really brought up terribly religious. My parents were both Catholic, but they wanted us to choose our own religion. And this just really spoke to me because it included meditation, it included positive affirmations, it included a mind treatment, which I include a lot in this book, as you know, that I still do to this day for myself. And that's basically like a scientific prayer, basically. It's instead of saying, oh, dear God, please give me this for my birthday or whatever, you go in and you affirm for yourself that this is so right now. And that whatever the situation may be, instead of pleading to somebody, you just affirm that it's happening right now, that is within you right now, and that you create a whole world with that. I mean, just an understanding, and your mind shifts from, I mean, we all have our bad days. Listen, I can have my pity parties and like the best of us, and then I go, stop, go within, find the truth within, and ask that spirit that knows much more than you do what's going on. And I just, as I said, I just loved the work. And then I felt with the Pilates and how I came up with it. And then David, of course, is a very, very good friend of mine, like sort of you and James here. He's he's a chiropractor, and I've known him for about 30 years. And we just found that our methods really meshed in so many ways because, if you have a physical problem, a physical ache, whether you have a hip ache or a back ache or a headache, of course, we like chiropractic or anything medical that works with chiropractic because it's holistic. That the only thing that stops many times the healing is what you're thinking. In other words, I can always say, if you hate your thighs and you go, I hate my thighs, no amount of leg lifts are going to make it thin. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I would see people sabotaging themselves so much. And so I got very involved, like with Louise Hay from Hay House. So this is basically, I get a lot of information from her. And my Bible is, I have it around here, I have several of Louise Hay's book, but Heal Your Body. And I became fascinated with the mental equivalence that each part of the body did represent. For instance, your cervicals, if you have really tight cervicals or neck, many times. Not necessarily, I'm not saying these things is what you have. These are all mental equivalents. What could be, it's a fear of looking at all in all directions. So people are very, very stiff like that. A hip problem can represent many times not being able to move forward in life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What does a sprained ankle represent?
Well, a sprained ankle, there's a lot of I don't really know off the top of my head. I could grab a book and see but it's because I don't deal with sprained ankles very often. But again, the ankle is our foundation. Right. So there's something that's making you feel possibly a sprained ankle is just a loosening of the foundation starting to wobble a little bit, and so you could find that. And what's neat is that when you go in, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist. I always laugh though, I go, but I play one on TV. But anyway, so I'm not going in and saying, tell me about your childhood, but I'm just, I've learned, because I spent several years studying, going in and doing, again, the spiritual mind treatment and trying to, what you want to do is, it's like you want to untie the mental knot along with the physical knot. That's really what it is. And it's the Trinity. It's the Trinity of movement. It's the mind, body, and spirit. And one thing that I have found with Pilates in the last few years is that spirit is just kind of out of it now. Everything is body, mind, even though BAM means body and mind. I just thought of that, but it's also, if I could put an S there, it would be body, mind, and spirit. It's those three things, and it's who you are. So like Joe Pilates would say, you work the body in front of you. I even take it more and I say, you work the person in front of you, because you get somebody in front of you who's like so afraid of whatever it may be, or has this going on and can't maybe their hips are bothering them because they can't move. Their middle back is really, really tight, which represents many times the love in your life. And, connecting a lot with the yoga chakras, which I haven't studied really well, but it kind of corresponds with that. or the lower back can represent a lot. Well, that's, the whole, why I started with the spine is because it's your whole support system.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so it's hard to feel, especially in today's world, feeling supported by any.
Sure.
So I'm surprised we're just not all crumbling down to having, to the floor. So what I do is just, I have exercises for everything. I mean, your back hurts. I have exercises for that. I have movements. It's all in here. But we're not.
Risa, can I ask you a question? When you see somebody, you see private clients, I assume, right? And you do a studio, or you go to their house, or?
Well, I do workshops in my studio and seminars, but I will do privately too. And I usually have them come to my studio. I haven't come to the home. I don't do a lot. I haven't done a lot of privates, but I do privates.
I just have some interesting questions because I'm a Pilates fan. I love Pilates. And I'm just starting a whole new session with Pilates. I stopped for a year and now I'm back to it. And I love Pilates. And of course, sort of with ballet, a lot of dancers took Pilates. Just something occurred to me when you were speaking. And this might sound a little far out, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. Are there certain movements in Pilates that you use with certain affirmations, or can you use certain affirmations with certain positions?
Well, as a matter of fact,
just asking.
As a matter of fact, let me just check this book. Yes, there are.
Okay.
Yes, that affirmations are a very big part of it, because when I say mind treatment, nobody's really going to, I will do that for you in a workshop or in a private session, but finding an affirmation that you should use, you could use before you work out, as you're working out, anytime during the day as you're walking down the street. I am free of, I'm feeling free. I'm feeling secure. I'm feeling supported. I am supported. Not really, because I like to use the I am. I am supported. As you're maybe doing some nice abdominals, or as you're strengthening the spine, you're creating in your mind that you are supported by the universe, by God, by whichever you like to call it. I am supported by life and you do your trick. Like they used to say, like, you got to treat and get off your feet, so you can't just sit here and go, I am this, and, do something. And I'll never forget, I was sitting on a chair for a while once, and I got up and I don't have hip problems, but my hip was like, what is going on here? And I went, knowing, of course, what hips mean. And, I'm going, where am I? Okay, so then I would just use the affirmation that I move freely forward. I am not afraid to move forward. Actually, or whatever affirmation I came up with. And then I also did the exercise that helped the hip with it, so it's a whole holistic way of working.
Wow, it's amazing.
But that's the affirmations are extremely.
And I agree with you. Science of mind to me is like a religion. When I first came to Los Angeles, I was on a bus going down Sunset Boulevard, and I, like you, was raised Catholic, but I didn't really believe in it. But I was looking at this before anything psychic, and I was going down this bus on Sunset Boulevard, and we stopped in front of the Church of Religious Science. And I felt a connection with that, and I've been a member of that. I started.
Dr. Bitzer.
Yeah, right on Sunset Boulevard.
I studied with him for
years.
I studied with.
I studied him 2 years.
Yeah, I was with him for years.
That was my first foray into.
He died, I think. He
passed. And then I went to the Bodhi Tree, of course, and studied church religious through the books I read.
I used to live around the corner from the Bodhi Tree.
I'm sure I've seen you there.
And I used to walk down to the Earth Cafe and I used to, grab a little latte, and then I'd go over to the Bodhi Tree. Oh, sure.
Every weekend, I was there every Saturday. That's where I spent. That's where I learned my craft, I guess you should say.
The Bodhi Tree is not there anymore.
Oh, no.
It was
a very sad day. Were you, James?
Yeah, they offered me to buy it. The two owners that I knew very well, and it didn't make sense. And then who knew it was going to happen with Prince? And it was sad because it was a really incredible
place.
It was.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Full of
used to
knowledge.
spend hours in there. I don't know why
Me too.
things just
And the
changed.
used bookstore in the back, wasn't that fun to go
Yes,
to?
it was. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I have a comment here. Chris Sigalo said, I started out in the aerobic fitness movement 45 years ago, too. I have continued with the blending of being a somatic experience practitioner. Good for you. I have followed the same mind, body, spirit connection. I love that this is on tonight. I was thinking about somatic experience as you were talking about what you doing. I mean, it's the constant, the body, the mind, the spirit, the way
You
you're
have to, we're
doing
not
this.
robots. If we were robots, we'd go lift the arm, turn the head, and there would be nothing else going on in there. But what makes that, it's that, what is that spirit? What is that thing in us that causes?
Risa, let's talk about stress in the life of people. Because what does stress do? The relationship between stress and pain and disease.
Well, that's major.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think that it would break bodies down.
It does break. It can, and it can do it in many different ways. And I have several examples in here and what I've done. I mean, everything from, job stress to relationship stress to, financial stress.
Sure.
And the back really takes its toll on the stress. I mean, the stress seems to like to go right to that spine that holds it all together, and like you're having trouble or whatever it is, it can also, of course, lead to headaches. I mean, major headaches. It can even lead to cancer. I mean, it's prevalent, and that's why it's so important to, number one, keep moving. You've got to move your mind, you've got to move your body.
True.
And without movement, like Ron used to always say, movement is life and life is movement.
It's so true.
So, yes, stress can be alleviated. Meditation, of course, is a wonderful tool that we all can use. Affirmations, breath. Ron was really into percussive breathing. I don't know if you know what percussive is.
I don't.
Okay. Well, that was his thing. Everybody, we all have our own thumbprints on it. And he was an elder, and percussive breathing was just heavy, inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth, but like really expelling, And Joe Pilates himself says you got to breathe in and you breathe out. And I cannot tell you how many people do not breathe.
They hold their breath. Yeah.
Lately, I mean, I tell my students, and I do teacher training, and I say, you guys, you've got to breathe. You just have to breathe, and you have to really breathe. You have to let the air in, and you have to let out all that gunk. And so, but percussive breath to him was just. So a lot of people are very intimidated by that, but.
Risa, let me interrupt you, but I think as you're speaking, this just hits my head, so I got to share it because I'll forget it. But as you're saying that, maybe visualizing as you're breathing in a certain area of the body to giving that breath of life to that part of the body, the shoulder. Or the
Absolutely.
chest, right?
Absolutely.
That would help. Yeah.
Sure. And it's breathing in, and it's breathing, the center. You've heard of the core.
Yeah.
Well, that Joe never really called it the core. Those are muscle groups. Those are like the transverse abdominis. They're names, but it is the center of the body. So I call it the center. Like when we're all crazy, sometimes we have to center ourselves. It's the same with the body. We have to, right? I'll just stand up here. I don't know if you can tell, but it's about an inch below the belly button and about an inch above the tailbone. And you imagine, I have this in the book too. You imagine a rod running through your hips from one side to the other, and then one going through your stomach from, again, below the belly button and in between there, where those points meet inside your body, I like to use, you could think of just a big ball of white light that is the place where all movement flows from. So one of the reasons for all of the pain is like you just most people just lift their arms, and then, oh my God, they start having all this pain in their shoulder. But if you imagine that this is all starting from the center, your arm is starting from the center. When you lift your arm, you're incorporating all of the muscles along with the stomach, and it's much less work and strain on the joint. It's all coming from here. And it should be the same when you walk. Most people walk down the street and their head is bobbing or they're stooped over. But if you can walk from that center.
Risa, when I do Pilates, which I mean, I one of the greatest things about Pilates for me was once I got working with that core, I was conscious of that core 24 hours a day. As I walked the street, I became aware of that core. And you really start becoming aware of it, mindful of it all the time, which is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because the core is where I've also heard it called the powerhouse, or Joe called it the center or whatever. Yeah.
Seat of knowing. Yeah.
And automatically when you're aware of it, your posture will improve. Totally. I've had clients that come in and they're all stooped over or whatever, and then I teach them the whole centering and also the butt too. It's very important to squeeze the butt to get that caboose always working with you. That's part of the core too. And so you become like a spiral and you're a cylinder as opposed to just one-dimensional or two-dimensional or
It just seems like it's a real, like a powerhouse, but getting that core space and that mind, it feels such a strength in that. And you make choices in life, it's coming from that strength point that you have that. And
exactly. And you have that strength point, and when you combine it with affirmations and understanding that it still could be from a trauma when you were 3 years old and you fell
absolutely
off a bike, that, and all sorts of things. I mean, I had a lady recently, and she was really tight in her thoracic, or the middle of her back. I mean, that spine, and I mean, just you couldn't even do anything with it. Well, you can't really move that part much, but there was a lot of pain, I should say, a lot of pain. And I said, have you just broken? I mean, do you have anything about love? I mean, do you have a problem at all with, I don't know exactly the words I use, but anyway, she started crying and she said, yes, because, my mother never loved me and she told me she never loved me. And I was like, oh my God, honey, So we did some exercises and affirmations and, so that's you. And the interesting thing that I like about using the science of mind principle, I mean, you can use any principle you like, but you don't necessarily have to always know the exact thing that's bothering you. You can go within and just say, there is that within me that knows what the answer to this is, and I am open to receiving the answer.
And Risa, there's a great expression, which I might be getting wrong, so I'm paraphrasing, but the body follows the mind, right? So the thoughts, right? So the body follows the mind. What you think, the body will.
The mind controls the body. Yes, but that's
really true.
Yeah. No, yeah. And where mind goes, energy flows too.
That's right. That's another one. That's a great one.
I really see, because I
write that one down again.
When I'm working with a client, I can tell automatically when they're going off somewhere, and I'm like, let's come on back, the mind where energy flows.
Such a good one. It's a great one.
Well, that's basically what the book is about, where energy flows.
What is the name of your book again?
Mindful Movement.
You read one of the very, very first.
I did.
You did, James. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I finally did it, James.
I'm very happy for you. Really am. I'm really thrilled for you.
There was a lot of.
It's an accomplishment that you did that, Risa. It's a real accomplishment.
You had worked on that for years. You did great.
For years.
Really proud of you and David. You guys worked hard for that. Here's a question from Mary Snyder. She says, I'm suffering from sciatic nerve in my back. Is there anything special I can do about that?
Physically?
Or with the BAM method?
There's a lot you can do for sciatic. Sciatic, as you know, is the biggest nerve in the body. And of course, it starts from the lower back and it can run down. That's where you get that horrible pain down the back sometimes. So I'm going to try to adjust this. And if you want to stretch it as much as you can, stretch the muscles around it, because what's happening is that this sciatic is it's so inflamed that it's pressing against the muscles and the nerves and causing you pain. So what you would want to do is put some ice on it, which is good. You want to get rid of the inflammation. And you have to make sure that the body is in alignment, because when it's not in alignment, things like sciatic and all those things happen. I mean, you can also be in an accident, or it could just happen. But I also use a very scientific term called declump, clumping, because most people clump in here, and they clump way down, and then it makes puts pressure on things like the sciatic nerve. So you want to make always as much space between the rib cage and the pelvis as possible to let things breathe. It's like sometimes it's a whole tumbleweed in there that you have to open up, so allowing things to be free. So sciatic, I know, can be very painful. You want to, where are you located, this lady who?
Anyway. I don't know.
Well, maybe she could find a good chiropractor could adjust her, because I can't work with the bones. I can only work with.
It's also, Risa, that might be sciatica, might be manifesting, but it might be from another part of the body that's imbalanced, right? So one part of the body can be imbalanced and affect another part of the body, right?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I just a quick insight here. I believe that nothing happens by accident. You're on the show because you're meant to be in the show. All day today, I've been working with chiropractors.
That's right.
And this was in my pocket.
Oh my God.
And this tells all about the vertebrae and what the nerves are affecting it and what's happening when it's squished and the different ailments. And
I have that in my book too. Yeah. And David has always has that. In fact, he first gave that to me.
You got to have those vertebrae. They got to be breathing in between there.
Exactly.
So I just had to bring that up because it was in my pocket. And we're talking about it.
David, if you're watching, or if you're going to watch, I don't know if you are, but isn't that funny? We're all together. Even though David's not here, he's here.
Yeah.
And he is very sorry he's not here. He wanted to so badly, but.
Yeah. And David was my chiropractor, and he's wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful man. Wonderful. Yeah. Anne Margaret has a question. She says, Risa, do you know what does TMJ represent in your opinion?
TMJ, the jaw.
The jaw.
TMJ is the jaw. Well, that's usually it's about speaking your word.
Speaking your truth, right?
Huh?
Speaking your truth?
Speaking your truth, speaking your word. Yeah. Well, that's what I meant, actually, speaking your truth. There's something that's you're not saying, whether it's.
Oh, that's a good one. Something you're not saying.
There's something that you're not saying. And it's just getting really, really tight because they're really.
Risa, it could be subconscious because a lot of TMJ happens at night during a sleep state.
Yeah.
That might be subconscious. Wouldn't you think, Kelly?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Absolutely. It has a lot to do with trauma.
And trauma.
Almost everything's subconscious. Are you kidding? I mean,
right? Yes. Actually, and all healing comes from the subconscious.
Right.
Yeah, ultimately. Yeah.
Right. So whether it's the sciatic or whether it's TMJ. And then again, I know a lot of people with TMJ. But I've never experienced it, thank God. But
I've had it before.
Yeah, I think I did once. I was at the dentist and I had my mouth open forever, and
It's a hard TMJ. It's a tough one. It really is. It's a tough one.
Yeah, but usually anything up in here or in the jaw or in the mouth has to do with, your ability to speak up, your something you want to say, something, that you need to say, something that you're afraid to say.
Do you know anything about fibromyalgia? They're asking about that.
Oh,
How
about
does that
fibromyalgia.
work with your system?
Well, that's a tricky one because I've had a few with fibromyalgia, and you have to be very, very careful in how you work because it can flare up really easy. Even and I learned the hard way. I remember the one time the lady goes, "Oh, I want to do this. I can do that. I can do this. I can do that." And the next day she called me and she goes, "Oh my God, I can barely walk." And I realized, I said, and then I started studying up more about it. But fibromyalgia is, and correct me if I'm not an expert on fibromyalgia, of course, but it's the body's reaction to itself, and it's turning against itself. And what you want to do is turn it back on its side, on its upside, in a way.
What kind of affirmations would you use for that?
And it shouldn't. Pardon me?
What kind of affirmations would you use for that?
I am open to God's love. This is all an inspiration. I am open to God's love. I am whole, perfect, and complete right now, exactly as I am.
That's beautiful.
Because I think fibromyalgia would be, if you go down the core of it, it'd be like almost in a weird way, the body eating itself. It's
turning against itself.
It's not loving yourself enough. I would think.
It's not loving itself.
You need to love yourself more.
In fact, I would say that most things, I don't care if it's the back or sciatic or what, is not loving yourself.
It's so true, isn't it? It's so true. Everything's sent from love. Yeah.
Oh, and don't you feel so much better when you're feeling but when not just so much just in love with something else or somebody else, when you're loving yourself, that's
gosh.
Yeah.
That joy, that loveful joy.
That is a freedom that
it's true.
But that's an affirmation in itself, because you don't have to believe the affirmation right away. Just know that there's something in you. If you say there's something in me that accepts this and believes this, I love myself. I love myself. I love myself.
And Risa, I'm gonna join you here by saying that again. I just say things pop in my head, so forgive me. Sometimes I've helped my spirit over here, but it's also I just heard this. Not only do you say I love myself, but many people who, let's say, I'm not talking about someone who hoards things or buys things because they have an addiction, but if you buy something you love and you put it outside, on your desk where you can see it every day, something you love, it's like it reminds you about, I love that. I love myself. That I'm connected to that.
Yes.
That's love. That vibration of love.
Yes.
To have something to remind us all the time. And that's maybe why we like nice things around us that we love, because it reminds us that we have love and we are love. That's what I like to think of it as.
Absolutely. And it's funny you should say that, because I'm getting my apartment here like painted and sort of redone and so forth like that. And the guy came in who was helping me, and he's really into feng shui, and I don't know that much about feng shui, but at least he said, he goes, I want to make this place happy. I think you need some more color. We're going to get rid of all of the old. I've been getting rid. I'm really into getting rid of stuff.
Good.
Getting rid of old.
It's movement. It's life.
It's movement.
Right?
It's movement. And even something like that, I can't. What did I do? I had a whole bunch of legal papers because I was going through something, and there wasn't even, I don't know, it had to do with my parents anyway, and I had tons of it, and I had my bookkeeper over. I said, I don't need to keep any of this, and she said, no, it's all done. Oh my God, when I took these bags of papers, of financial papers and whatever it was, and dumped them, the feeling I had afterwards was like I had just
Probably
lost.
elated.
I was elated. That's
I just took 30 pounds of boxes from my days in the 80s, 90s, and shredded all of them. And it was my first trips, my first talent deals, my first all old stuff I did no longer need. And it felt so light. It opens up that space for us.
It did, because it opens up space for other things. And it's a material thing. It's a piece of
it's stuff. It's just stuff.
Well, and that holds the body down, doesn't it? The mind and the body and the soul.
You're right,
I walk into homes that are full of stuff, and I'm like, oh, you got to get rid of all the stuff. You got to get rid of all of it.
I live in San Diego, and the biggest income they have down here, wait to hear this one, are storage units. That's the biggest income they do down here.
So it's enough that you can't put it in your house. You have to put it somewhere else. You have to pay for storage,
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot.
Then it's
a
pretty.
lot of stuff to schlep around,
Yeah, get rid of whatever you don't need or use.
Lighten the load.
And lighten the load. I mean, I'm lightening the load. There's another closet. Ooh, I'm going to get to that closet.
I've been spring cleaning, and I tell you, it's one of the best things ever.
So that's another
time to do it.
I am free of clutter. I am, there's nothing in me that holds on to old things. There's nothing in me that holds on to old relationships, to old stuff.
Yeah. And once you forget that mindset, your whole life changes, and you start believing that way. You start acting that way. That you're not holding on to anything. You're not attached to things, and you're free.
Yes,
it does work that way. It certainly
I
does.
love it. I was reading something the other day about, I think some people think that they're going to take everything with them, when they go. And they say that I got news from them. They've opened up tombs of mummies that still have all of their gold around there. They didn't get to take their gold with them. It was still there after 10,000 years.
Yeah.
So
I had a conversation yesterday with someone who went to up at their mausoleum and how great the mausoleum is going to be, and pink marble. It was George Kelly, just so you know.
Oh, dear God. Why am I not shocked?
It was hysterical because people really believe that's it, and it's wow, that's something. That's something else.
He of all people should know, but oh God,
there's more to it. I'll tell you later, Kelly. But
it's just a lot of people are into exercise, which is wonderful. I believe in exercising the right way, the correct way, and but again, not understanding that it is not just your mind and your body. What is directing that mind? There is a soul, spirit, whatever it is. And I have to be honest, it'll be in February, it'll be 50 years that I'll be in this business that I've been.
Wow, good for you, Risa.
Congratulations.
Really, congratulations.
I'm going to give a big party. So if you're, I know.
We're around. We're here every Monday.
That's true. We'll have one here.
We're around.
Oh, that's so
We've been trying to get on the show for a long time. So I'm glad we were able to finally do that with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
People are loving this, really.
Are they? I'm not reading anything.
A lot of good, great comments. People love the
Barbara wrote
one of the best ones. I've never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse. Is it?
Yeah, a hearse.
Oh, yeah. I've never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse.
Which is very funny. Oh my gosh.
That's so great. I love that.
That's so funny. Well, and I want to mention that I know had talked about trauma early on, and I really want to mention that I do have an upcoming class on June 22nd. It's a big announcement, and it's healing family trauma. So if you have addiction, suicide, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, generational trauma, please join Dr. Shirley Pellizzeri. She's going to be talking about it from a psychological, somatic experience. I've got Carrie Gonia, who's going to be doing generational trauma. And I'm going to be talking about trauma from a spiritual side of trauma. And it's all about healing family trauma. And if you sign up before May 1st, we have a big discount right now. So go on my site, or you could, Renee, I think you're going to post this.
Yep.
If you can give this a post out.
You are going to post it.
Great, Kelly. Great work.
Yeah, it's really going to be a great one. And Shirley and Carrie and I only do this about every 2 years. So and anybody who's taken this class has really learned a lot. It's on Zoom. It'll be on Zoom. It's a 4-hour course. And we're also going to include a family constellation meditation. And, you know, when we open that morphogenic field, it is unbelievable. It's such about healing family trauma.
And Kelly, everybody, I don't care who it is, everybody has family trauma, right?
Everybody, every family is dysfunctional.
Whatever level it might be.
And you would be the one. And when I was reading all the comments, all of these people, they're the ones that have come to break the family trajectory of how it's been, because in family constellation they believe you carry 13 generations of trauma behind, and you want to think about that. I mean, no wonder people are walking in a stoop by the time they get down here.
Traumas,
it's so and they somatize in the body and they hold us back, and then spiritually what happens is our vital life force drops. And then you get sad, depressed, and then we go to suicide. I mean, so please join us on June 22nd as a 4-hour class.
So Susie Edwards says it's too expensive for me, and Susie, I think it's for you. So,
yeah, probably. If you go on right now, it's got a bit of a discount to it. But if you think about it, if for the 3 of us, if you were to have individual sessions with us, it would be over $1,500.
Yeah. I know. I think there's no price to that, because I mean, think of all the trauma we carry on for years until we release that. Just to open that space of awareness about trauma.
Absolutely. Kim Ann says, I did the class a few years ago and it was great. Yeah, thanks, Kim. It's an extraordinary course. And I'm also teaching on May 10th, Star Seeds. So with Janelle Campbell. So we've got our Star Seed event coming up on May 10th in the United States, and it happens to be May 11th in Australia. So please join us for that. If you feel that you are different, that you have a different soul path, and you've always felt, I don't know, kind of unique, please join us. So I think you'll enjoy this class so much too. Two totally different classes, but fascinating.
I'm doing a mediumship one, half off right now to the 21st of April for people that love me. They love mediumship one. It's the most popular course. So that's the 21st, 50% off. And those who sign up, I'm going to be maybe meeting some of you in San Diego. So there'll be another announcement, but sign up at the JP School of Mystical Arts. Yeah.
Wow.
If anybody wants to get in touch with me, my website is www.shepherdmethodpilates.com.
And how booked up are you right now, honey? Are you like months ahead, or you can booked up?
Sorry.
Are you booked up privately a long time ahead in advance? Are you okay right now?
No, not really. I'm actually, if you want to know the truth, I have teachers that I train. Actually, I do my own training, and I'm cutting back just a little bit with personal training because I have the book that I want to. I'm going to Sedona in a couple of weeks to do a workshop on this, and a few other things. And I just came back. I was invited to Italy. I went to Italy, and oh my God, I have to tell you, the people that I did they just ate it up.
Wow.
I mean, it was beautiful. It was great. Beautiful. Although, I don't know, do I have time for a funny little story? It'll take about 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, it was just, so, they would have an interpreter for me. Tell me if you've ever had this, because I'm sure you've been. And so I would say something like, roll down one vertebrae at a time. All right. And the interpreter then would go, and she would talk and talk. I'm going, did I talk that long? And then I say something else really short, like my book is Mindful Movement. I don't know. I love the Italians.
Wait to get to Germany. They talk even longer than Italians.
Yeah. Of course, being Italian myself, Yeah. And but speaking of that, my father is 96 years old.
Wow.
So speaking of family trauma, I'm just going back. It's not that I have trauma with him, but even to this day, like when I see him and he does something, he has some mannerisms, I go, oh my God, that's where I get that from. Or, you know what I mean? Or, oh my God,
I know that one.
Why I'm the way I am, or this, he does this, and I mean, nothing bad, but or some bad actually.
I think we all recognize that. Kelly, you probably recognize that
Oh,
sometimes.
you bet. Oh, I do, especially with my siblings. Yep. Mentioning, just saying. Well, thanks, Risa. It was wonderful to have you on tonight. Thank you so much. And everybody, we'll see you all next week. And join me Thursday. I'm going to be talking about the Akashic Records.
And next week's a very special show, everybody. So please join us.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now and Beyond, featuring spiritual medium and master teacher James Van Praagh and spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kellee White.
That was great. Maybe we changed some lives.
And maybe opened up some minds.
Which way do I turn?
Right. I mean left.
The James and Kellee Show.